welcome you to the first annual Milford Area Chamber of Commerce. I am very excited to have completed my first year, and I am still standing. That's an accomplishment. And I also want to point out that my heart goes out to Frank because he has been having, or trying to have, his annual meeting for 2 weeks and they keep getting snow. So today, I only had to compete in all of you with the Patriots parade, and I think we did pretty, I want to say damn good, but I didn't say that. So, and I also want to thank Tony Gallo because he got the equipment for the Patriots down to the game and probably helped in the Patriots winning. So thank you, Tony. And Frank, my hat goes out. Good luck. Let's pray for no snow next week, okay? So, what is a chamber? You're the chamber. I just want to say that being here is very impressive when you look around this room. And I am very honored to be the president of your chamber. Everybody in this room is a piece of the chamber. And everybody that you know can be a piece of the chamber. And when you are successful, we are successful. From small companies to large. And we appreciate all that you do in order to network and promote your business and promote our business. I am not the typical president of the chamber, which I believe is one reason I was hired to work with this chamber. At this point, I can relate to everybody in this room. I have many years, too many to count, as a banker. I have run my own business, and now I can add this to my list. And I am very proud to stand before you as the president of your chamber. I'd like to call, I forgot to hit the button, excuse me. And let's hope it works. And it's on, but it doesn't want to work. Wonder if the battery went out. Let's try again. Hey Dave, can you hit? Sorry, folks. And we were here testing this and it worked at 11 o'clock and at 10:30. All right. Sorry about that. All right, so let me just continue and see if, there we go. He works wonders. I want to talk about what is the chamber. The real question is, who is the chamber? And as I said, the chamber is you, your connections. It was fantastic to be up here and see all of you networking. That's part of the chamber. The connections that we have is part of the chamber. So you are the chamber. I am your president. And we are here to help support one another. The chamber is more than talking. The chamber is doing work together. Our mission does state that, and I'm not going to read it, but remember we have 10 towns that we deal with. Our name is Milford Area Chamber of Commerce, and we have a brand new sign listing all of our towns, and we're very proud to work with them. And each town I have met with somebody representing that town, and going forward in 2015, I will be out to other towns as well, so we can really incorporate the 10 towns and get connected in many ways. The chamber staff, please remember there's myself and Laura, and she's sitting in the back, and she is phenomenal, and please give her a round of applause. She told me not to do that, and she's upset, but I don't really care. So, I'm very proud of what she's done, and she has helped me tremendously throughout the year. We also have a part-time person, Carolyn Quinn, and we have Tyler Sweat, who we're going to be missing. If any of you have noticed our website, Tyler's the one who's a college kid who is phenomenal. We have changed a lot this year, and he has helped us. He works a small amount of hours here and there, and we will be trying to replace him. I'm not sure we'll ever be able to replace him, but he's helped us tremendously this year. Our board members have been phenomenal. I could not be sitting here without the support of this board. I will call the executive committee to stand, and please stay standing. I will not announce all of our members because we do have a large board. The first one, our new chairman, for 2015. Okay, for 2015 is Dave Price. Please stand from Bright Star Care. I'm sorry. Thank you, Dave. Next, we have Mike Murphy, Chair-elect from Myrick O'Connell. And I can actually say Myrick O'Connell now. A year ago, it was a tongue twister and I had trouble. So we're coming a long way. Doreen Trottier, Vice Chair from Waters Corporation. Doreen, where are you? She's phenomenal. Denise Greenwood, our treasurer from Denise's Gift Baskets. I know she just got in from Florida and she's here. Thank you, Denise. Did Beth Patris make it? I know there was a little bit of problem. She's not here, Laura? Okay, thank you. Shefali Desai is our past chair, and she was phenomenal work with this year. And if you would just please stay standing. And I'm going to announce the 3 new people that were elected this year. They are Joe Source from Bright Insurance. Where are you, Joe? Thank you for being here. Paul Gilbody from Milford Federal. Thank you, Paul. Myra Bradley from Ira Toyota. I know he's here, and you can't miss him. Thank you all. And would the rest of the board just please stand? I would like you all to be applauded. We did have Mel McGee, who is from Charles River. He was actually replacing somebody else who was present on the board. So not to forget Mel. Thank you. Shefali, could you please step up and talk about reflections of 2014? And I do have the clicker working now, so that's a good thing. Before we do this, I want to thank Shefali. I would tell you that working with her has been phenomenal. I will tell you that my first interview was a telephone interview. I had never had a telephone interview. Shefali's voice on that phone interview reassured me that we would connect, and I had high hopes of getting this job. She has been phenomenal, and so has her bank in allowing her to help me go forward. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, that's the clicker.
Oh,
We'll
just
leave
put
it
it
here.
Thank you.
I'll bring it down to the table. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you. Hello, everyone. What a great turnout. Thanks to all of you for coming to our first annual meeting. And I would like to say thank you to all the sponsors. Without your support, we wouldn't have able to do this special event. So thank you all. Now, I would like to talk to you about our 2014 accomplishments under the new leadership of Siobhan Bonson, the president of the chamber. As you all would agree, change is good. New sets of eyes always helps. As Siobhan mentioned earlier about our core mission of the chamber, and primarily we always focused on our membership. Without members, there is no chamber exist. So mainly, we focused on concentrate on our membership and return on investments. What we did few things to do that. We focused and we engage our members to offer value to other members in their area of expertise. We launched new committees and offered educational seminars. We continued the success of our annual events and introduced several new events. We also worked on our administrative function. As Siobhan mentioned earlier, Tyler, one of our staff members, worked really hard along with Siobhan and her staff and redesigned the whole website, updated our website, and made it so clear, not too crowded, not too busy, and easy to follow. I know many of you visit our website, and the good news is more than 50% of the attendees registered online, which says a lot, which is a great accomplishment, Siobhan. Thank you. So if any of you have not gone on our website, please visit at www.milfordchamber.org. We also came up with our new logo, not really a new logo, but instead of the MAC, we spelled it out, and we say it now the Chamber of Commerce, the Milford Area Chamber of Commerce. Since we not only serve Milford community, we serve 10 surrounding towns, which we have this new sign, and it says that we need to make sure not only Milford Chamber, but it's the Milford Area Chamber of Commerce. And Siobhan is working very hard to expand the relationship with other towns. We implemented pay online features, which made it so convenient to our members as well as the chamber. Saves a lot of time on follow-up, on invoices, etc. And of course, our members, it's easy to register online. As I said earlier, just perfect example that more than 50% registered online for today's event. We also introduced yearly calendar on our website, which helps members to plan in advance for the events. So we have monthly, yearly calendar, pre-plan everything ahead of time, so no excuse. Please mark your calendar, and we want you to be more active as a member, so please be there. We need your support. We leverage our talents and role of our board of directors by their involvement in the operationals and financial aspect of the chamber. We are so fortunate to have a diverse group of our board of directors. We also began monthly executive board meetings in addition to our monthly board meetings, just to have that open communication with the president and the board members, and it's been working very well, so thank you, Siobhan. I would like to say thank you to Mike Carroll, chair of 2013 from Dean Bank, and David Price, chairman of 2015 from Bright Star, who really worked very hard side by me and supported the chamber throughout the process with new presidency. I also want to say thank you to the entire board of their hard work and support. Siobhan, you have built such a great relationship with board members, her staff, as well as our members. So it is all about the teamwork. Without you all, board member and everyone else supports, we cannot do anything, as you all know. Oh, sorry. It is really great success for 2014. It was my pleasure and honor to serve as a chairwoman for 2014. Thank you all for your continuous support, and thank you for coming, and enjoy the rest of the event. Now I'm going to turn over to David Price. Thank you all. Sorry. Thank you.
Okay, let's give another round of applause for Shefali. I think Shefali did an excellent job as chairperson during Shaffan's first year. It was a very transformational year for the chamber, and I think it was just a phenomenal job. And if you think back, I'm very honored to be serving as chairman of the board. And if you think back to the history, at least since I've been involved with the chamber, I joined the chamber in 2010 and began serving on the board in 2011. And just watching the excellent leaders we've had, going from Bob Kilroy to Tony Gallo to Mike Carroll to now Shafali. So I have some very big shoes to fill, and I'm honored to do that. So thank you, and I'm happy to be here with you. Frank, Siobhan stole my thunder. When it comes to scheduling events, maybe you ought to have the Mac schedule them for you, because they seem to have a bit better luck with the weather. Okay, so I wanted to talk a little bit about where the chamber is going financially, but before I do, just going to ask a couple questions. Raise your hand, you don't have to stand up. Raise your hand if you are either a business owner, the president, CEO of a business, or the general manager of a business. Put your hands up. All right. Now keep your hands up if you think your job is easy. Okay. Now, by show of hands, put your hands up if you think either by your position individually, you could help someone else who just had their hand up, or if the nature of your business is to help people who just had their hands up. Put your hands up if you think you could help the other people in this room. Okay, that's why we're here. That's what the chamber is all about. So give yourselves a round of applause. I was talking to Maya, from IRA. It's a tongue twister before the, and he was talking about their strategy of being local, and it is, the chamber's all about businesses doing business with local folks. Which means membership's important, and also means that the events that the chamber does are important, both for the chamber itself financially, as well as for what value those events provide to the community and to the member businesses. And we put a little chart together over here that shows the mix of the business over the last 4 years of the chamber. In 2014, still preliminary, but it gives you a sense that you'll see year by year there's a growing trend that the chamber has become more and more reliant on events versus membership as part of its revenue. And the overall revenue is dramatically, actually pretty flat in that time frame. And the chamber, without going into details, since I've been involved, I would say it fits the definition of a nonprofit. A little above, a little below the line, there's not a lot of wiggle room for the chamber. If I go to the next slide. This shows the percentage of each of the events and what they contribute to the chamber, and this is net benefit, if you will. So it's the revenue taken in at the event less the expenses for that event. Excludes the chamber staff in there. So you see, working from the bottom up, that the auction is the most important event for the chamber, followed by Honor Scholar Night, the golf tournament, and the Home and Business Expo are all really, really important. And what you also see on here is the business after hours, which is a little small blue bar, about 4 down from the top. That's been declining over the last several years. And one of the things that Siobhan's going to be talking about is how we can get some more interest back in the business after hours. Because I think there's probably some correlation between that business after hours and that membership trend going on there. And so in addition to providing, if I kind of go to what we conclude from that, is that the events are really important. They serve a great role for the community, great role for our members, great role for the businesses that participate in them. The chamber financially benefits from them, but we need to go beyond that and really focus on the core value that we provide to the members. And the chamber's been, each year that I've been involved, is spending more and more time focusing on that, and you're going to hear a lot about that from Siobhan in terms of what's new for 2015. So I'll just briefly talk about value in general. That kind of is the backdrop to where we're going in 2015. As owner of Bright Star Care, I joined the chamber in 2010, as I mentioned, And as a brand new business, it was important for me to get connected with other businesses. Prior to that, I'd spent 25 years in high-tech manufacturing. And my customers were maybe some in Massachusetts, but most elsewhere in the country or Mexico or Asia. So the chamber wasn't necessarily important because I didn't need to connect to the community as much in my role. So I found the chamber very, very important to me to get those connections. But that's just one piece of it. Another part of it is the promotion, what the chamber does in promoting businesses. And as of right now, about 10% of my Bright Start business is referrals that came from chamber members. And so raise your hand if you'd like a 10% increase in your business. I would. So again, just due directly to the Milford Area Chamber of Commerce. The other part is resources. And again, as small business owners, and even the most accomplished CEOs in the room would admit they don't have all the answers themselves. So we need to learn from each other, and there's that expression, surround yourself with bright people, and you will learn something. And I think the chamber can do that not just by osmosis and networking, but by some formal programs of education and training where we're capitalizing on the talents of some of the people who had their hands up a few minutes ago to help each other with that. And then the last piece is the economic development and advocacy on a broader level. And again, we're pleased to have some of our elected officials here today so we can work with you in a partnership to work on policies and activities that really foster the growth of business here in this region. And the chamber can take a very good role in that effort, and will be taking a more expanded role in it, as Siobhan's going to talk about. So at this point, I would like to welcome Siobhan back up to the podium and have her continue talking about what's new for 2015.
Okay, he's taller than I am. There, that works better. A couple inches different. 2015 is going to be exciting. 2014 was phenomenal, but we're going to improve it for 2015. And going forward, we have some different ideas. We've created in your pamphlet you're going to be seeing, with the help of the board, something that we're calling Small Business Boot Camp. And I will mention it, and then Mike Murphy will come up and speak a little bit more about it at the end. It's going to be an educational series. It's free. We really concentrated with the board this year to help our members understand the value, and this is one way that we felt we could give back. And there's going to be a fantastic series for small business owners or large. If you just want to come in and hear some information on any topic, the outline, you can come to one, you can come to all of them. Right now, it's scheduled to be at the Milford Area Chamber of Commerce office, and we plan on doing that going forward. Bringing in network and educational classes, we have connected with Sandler Training. They will go into your business at no cost to you, review your training and what you're doing, and then have suggestions because you are a member of the chamber. We have really tried to strengthen some of those relationships. That is something that has been very positive. We're also doing that with networking. We are also going to be having leadership classes going forward at the chamber. We're trying to listen to our members. And speaking about listening to our members, on all of your seats, there's a card. There's a front and a back to it. If you would like to be on a committee, or if you have a suggestion that you want us to look at, we are very interested in hearing what you're saying. But if you don't tell us, we can't fix it. And that's what it comes down to. We need more people to get involved on these committees. As I stated, there's only a few people in the office. But this is how we strengthen our relationships throughout the chamber. We have other organizations that are willing to come in and help. And as members, you can take advantage of that. We have social media. We work with Venly. They will come in, and I know some of the larger companies have had them come in at no charge. They will review your process, and then if you decide to do business with them, you work out the details. So Mike, could you come up and talk about our educational series, please?
Sure. As Siobhan said, and Dave, to touch on what Dave was talking about, in trying to provide greater value to the members, one of the things we came up with was this educational series, recognizing that a huge part of our membership is the small business owner, and recognizing that often as small business owners, they may not have the resources or staff needed to develop the skills necessary to grow the business. So we came up with the educational series in your packet, which has the topics laid out, beginning in about 2 weeks. So we'll have presentations in the chamber offices over 9 topics, roughly about every 2 weeks, running over the next 5 months. Because of limited space, first come, first serve. So if you're interested, contact Siobhan to sign up, and you don't need to sign up to attend all of them. You can pick and choose. And certainly if you feel like there's a topic of interest, something that should be covered, that's not included, by all means contact Siobhan, and we'll do what we can to work it into the series going forward, because our hope is to have this sort of a continuing series in the years to come, and to provide this to our members. So thank you, and hopefully we'll see you at the presentations in the educational series.
We just listed a few of the program committees on here. I want to stress that we are really moving forward. We're trying to have a membership and ambassador program. So if you're coming to a business after hours and you're new and you register online, which is something new for us and it's very helpful, and we talk to you and you say to us, I'm a contractor, I'd like to meet some other business people in this field. That's what our ambassadors and membership committee will be working on. So if we know ahead of time, we can make the right introductions to help you. And I think going forward, that is going to be fantastic benefit to everybody. We've changed our marketing and advertising. If you look on our website, at the very bottom, it says VIP. If anybody's interested in buying one of those spots, it's out there now. We're trying to give you better publicity, and we get tons of phone calls. I had a phone call 2 days ago. I'm moving to the area. Do you know a painter? Or I need landscape. I need someone to plow. We get tons of those phone calls, and Laura is fantastic at giving out referrals and names. And that's what we're about. People come to our website. They're looking for a local bank. They look to see who's there. It's very helpful to all of us to have that information. We need to strengthen our economic and development advocacy. We have just got a group together. We have a chairperson, and we will be going forward with that. That's very important, as well as the education for our members, as well as the community. Something that we did last year is we really raised the level. I'm not sure all of you know about our Honor Scholar Night. Throughout our 10 towns, we honor the top 10%. And with the help of Waters and Baxter, we gave out $6,000 in scholarships. That had never happened before. That is phenomenal. That's how we give back to the community. That's how we bring community and businesses together. We always, let's say this is the first of our annual meeting. I hope going forward, we're gonna do this every February. That's the plan. We have our Home and Business Expo, that's always in March. I talked about on a Scholar Night. Something in 2014, and we're going to continue it for 2015, is we called it Member Appreciation Business. We actually had it in here. We had about 12 people, different members, and they got to talk about what services they could provide to people. It was a great turnout, and we got to share a lot of ideas. The Mega Business Expo, we do that at Gillette Stadium. That's very definitely business to business. That's what it's geared towards. We work with 2 other chambers in the area. Our golf tournament was a huge success. We had over 100 players. Everybody was happy. We're going back to Blissful Meadows. It's going to be in September again. We have the date, we have a committee. And then our auction. The auction helps us keep our doors open and keep going. The auction brings in phenomenal amount for everybody. And it's another way to bring the community to the chamber. And at this auction this year, I actually had somebody come up to me that when I worked in the Milford area as a trainer for the Girl Scouts, was one of the leaders that I trained. So for me, that was phenomenal. That's about bringing business and community together. We're going forward. We did have a beer and wine tasting. We're keeping the membership. We're trying to get a summer 5K road race going. We're looking at July, and that should be on the way. Business during hours. We mentioned that the business after hours has declined. What we're trying to do is every other month, one month we will have a business after hours. The next month we're going to be having a business during hours. We will have a speaker. It'll last maybe an hour and a half, and we're going to see if that can promote. We're finding that people are so busy after they get out of work that we're not at the top of the list. We want to be at the top of the list. So if we try and offer something during the day as of today, maybe this is what we need to look at. We're also looking at doing a breakfast. Maybe a possibility of that as well. Calendar of events. You can go to our website and see what's happening at the chamber. That could change daily, it can change monthly. But we're trying to give you advance word on what we're doing. And if you log on to the activity that you want to attend, you should be able to go right to our registration and sign right up and pay. So that's good for everybody. It saves us, and it can go to your calendar. We're working on, if you use Outlook, there, hopefully within the next few months, there will be, you'll be able to click on that and it'll go right to your calendar, so you can't forget us. How lucky is that, right? So, additional value. We're here. The card on your table, we're listening to you. But as I said, if you don't tell us how we can improve or the items that we can help you with, then that makes it all that harder. We will be taking these cards to different events. So I do hope that you fill this out, and if not today, think about it and email us or call us, because we are there to make it easy, and we're asking for your input. Okay, something that we're very proud of for this year is awards. We are introducing a few awards, and I'm going to start with the George Draper Award, which we have listed in your program. We did some research. We also reached out to the family, and they were one of the great-great-great-grandsons was going to attend today. But because of the storm, he was in Boston and had to change his activity. He was thrilled. The George Draper Award is a company, is a person who started with nothing, grew a company, believed in the community, and gave back, and was always the first to step up. And I'm very proud, and Shafali, if you could come up too, and Kristen Cavalli, if you would please come up and accept the George Draper Award, and we hope to continue this every year going forward, to Milford National Bank and Trust Company. They support us tremendously. They support the community, all that we serve, and many more. And Kristen, I want to thank you especially for having Shafali on our board, because she's been a lifesaver more than once.
You want to? No.
Dave, can you come up and help with the awards? These are the awards of 2014. So something that we came up with was Business of Distinction Award. I met Tony Galley a few months after I started, and it seems like I was always calling him for a favor, but what else is new when you're the chamber president, right? And I've come to know Tony more through Rotary and the chamber. He's always there, he's always giving back. He's on the board of New Hope. He was on the board here for many years. And I'd like him to come up and receive, in recognition of outstanding business achievement and community commitment, presented to Tony for Gallo Moving and Storage. And he got our Patriots items down there, so what more could we ask for, huh?
Thank you. Sure.
The next award's going to the Ambassador of the Year Award. I cannot tell you how much work this woman does, and I don't think she ever sleeps, because we're always trading emails, and she'll say, oh, you sent yours at 1, and I'll go, yep, you sent yours at 1:30 in the morning. So Doreen Trottier from Waters is an exceptional person. She goes more than beyond the means. She knows everybody. She helps every time. She helped put this together. With her in the auction, she gets things happening, and you just say, okay, Doreen, let's do it, and she's right there. And she gets you the answer before you even ask the question. So Doreen, could you please come up and accept this award for Ambassador of the Year?
Congratulations. Very well deserved. Thank you for everything. Thank you. Thank you. You're welcome. We're proud to have you.
Then we went back and looked in the history books of our computers, and we wanted to give another award for the longest standing member, which means they have belonged to the chamber, as far as our records are showing, for 38 years. So this award will be given once, because next year we'll have to come up with something different, because he can't keep getting the award all the time. So Steve Ellis, could you please come forward? And it says a lot about how you believe in the community to be a member for 38 years. Wow.
Congratulations. Thank you so much for your support. Thank you. Thank you.
All right, I'm also, next we're staying on time, because I know all of you want to get back to work. So that's a good thing. I'd like to introduce our newly elected state senator, Ryan Fattman. But before Ryan comes up, I have to tell you how we met. Ryan and I have been going back and forth on emails and Laura, and we were trying to see what we could do. And I go into the office, and I was early, which is unusual. It was like 7:30, but don't call me every day at 7:30 because I'm probably not there. And I always turn on the radio. Our local radio, WMRC, right? That's what we do, right, Tom? You got it. And all of a sudden I go, whoa, that's Ryan Fattman. And then I go, it's live. So I go beep up and down the hall, and I stand there until he gets done, which was about a half an hour of a radio show. That's what a chamber does. Ryan, Senator Ryan was not senator at that point. We had a great conversation. I invited him down. We spoke for about an hour, and I truly believe that is a great example of what the chamber can do for everybody. And those that we put out there make a difference. You know, we talk about community. We now have an intern from Hopedale, and she comes to help us out. That's giving back to the community. I'm going to Dean College tomorrow. I've reached out, and I'm going to be working with the students to help us do some media, and I'm going in, and they're going to evaluate some of the information that we sent out to people, and that's going to be a whole semester. And I'm going into that classroom probably 3 times. They will do presentations because we connected with one of my board members who gave me the right connection. And I'm really looking forward to working with those students and going into the classroom. But those are some of the examples that we do. And Ryan, I was so glad that I turned on the radio that day. Could you please come up, Senator? And
Good afternoon, everyone. Oh Oh my God. Good afternoon, everyone. A little bit of life would be nice. It's an honor to be with you this afternoon, and thank you very much for inviting me. And Siobhan, thank you very much for the introduction. It's somewhat special for me to be here today. 3 months ago, in this very room, I found out that I would be the next state senator for the Worcester-Norfolk District around 8:20 in the evening. And that caused a lot of celebration for me and my family. And so to be back here in a special place is always a truly wonderful thing. And before I was able to take the stage, Representative Fernandes said to me that when I spoke, he would basically come up after and agree with just about everything I would say, which probably gave me a lot of leverage and leeway. But one of the things I enjoy about Representative Fernandes and working with him is he's well respected by both sides of the aisle, and he's somebody I'm looking forward to working with over the next 2 years. You know, for me, this is a wonderful opportunity to reach out to the business community, to share a little bit about myself and also sort of my vision for what Massachusetts can be. Siobhan had asked me to speak for about 15 to 20 minutes, and the way I look at it, you know, Tip O'Neill said, all politics is local. I ran a campaign where I said, all politics is personal. And on that note, I'd like to share a little bit about my background, who I am, and then venture into some of the challenges that I think are facing Massachusetts today. Finally, taking a little bit of time for question and answer if you choose. But basically, I was born and raised in the town of Sutton. Growing up with the last name Fattman is sort of an interesting experience. You know, you get called a lot of things. Some of my favorite things that I've been called over the course of my life are son, brother, husband, and hopefully one day father. For me, being called senator is a temporary thing. It's something that I see as a 2-year contract that every year I have to prove that I need to fulfill my next year, two years. And that is something that I will never forget. My political career, if you will, almost never happened. One of my favorite things I've been called over the course of my life is coach. And I'd like to tell and share a very brief story about how a lot of this came to be. When I was in college, I went to Suffolk University. My high school basketball coach, Stephen Ramasco, called me and asked me to coach a group of 8th grade boys in AAU basketball. Now, I didn't come from a lot of money, but I also considered myself a child of privilege. Privileged to have parents who loved me very much, who believed in me and told me I could do anything I wanted. When my coach asked me to coach the group of 8th grade boys, I said, that's not what I want to do. I'm in a big city, having a lot of fun, meeting a lot of new people, and that weekend, I was going to be going down to Mohegan Sun with my college roommate. His dad did come from a lot of money, and we were going to be spending our time in a presidential suite, one of the nicest opportunities I'd ever have in my life, being treated like VIPs. And so we went away that weekend. It was amazing. I was taking pictures with my cell phone, sending them to my parents and saying, this is what I want in my life. This is incredible. Dave Chappelle was the comedian staying in the room next to us. We went to his show. He hung out with us after. I'd never experienced anything like it. And that weekend just coincided that there was a basketball tournament called the Clark basketball tournament for local high schools. And I went home that weekend telling my parents that, you know, this was the kind of life that I wanted to live, and I knew I was going to run into my coach who had asked me to coach this group of 8th grade boys. And over the course of watching him at the Clark tournament, Sutton was ranked #1. He ran a great program. Around halftime, he was screaming, running up and down the floor as we knew he did. He grabbed the back of his head and he dropped dead. He had a brain aneurysm. And in that moment, I learned a great lesson. No amount of money would ever bring him back. That all that glitters is not always gold. And it kind of rearranged my life. Kind of was an epiphany, if you will. And I decided to coach that group of 8th grade boys to give back to my community just as my coach had taught me. And so over the course, in order to instill the values that he instilled in me, as well as my parents, I wanted them, the boys, to write to their elected officials. It was actually a precondition for playing in the last basketball tournament where we were going out to New York City. And so they all wrote, Democrats, Republicans, dog catcher, President of the United States. And we were able, in a small way, to honor my coach who always said, you gotta be involved. In doing so, I met a man, and that man, his son, played basketball. He was sitting next to my dad in that tournament, and he said, "When am I going to get the opportunity to run your son's campaign for selectman? This town needs a lot of new blood." And so we would go out to Tony's Pizza, pretty much the only restaurant in my hometown, and he would convince me over the course of time that I should do this. Of course, the first person I reached out to was my longtime girlfriend, Stephanie. And Stephanie and I had been dating since high school, and I went over to her. She was a senior in high school at the time, and I was a sophomore in college, and she said, "You're insane. You're too young. And not only that, but all my high school friends are gonna think you're ridiculous." And so that was an interesting thing, seeing where she's ended up today. But basically, that has played out in a very advantageous way in my life. My coach meant a lot to me. When the opportunity came for running for state representative in 2010, I did take that chance. My girlfriend and I, Stephanie, had been dating for 7 years at that point, and once again sought her counsel. This time a little bit older, a little bit wiser. She gave me great advice, and actually I could learn a lot of lessons from her. I had called her up. She was in New York City at the time, and basically I'd said, "Stephanie, I'd like to take you out to a really nice dinner. I have a very important question I'd like to ask you. I want to see what you have to say." So when I showed up, the poor girl thinks I'm going to ask her to marry me. After a slap upside the head when I said, "I think I'm going to run for state rep, what do you think?" We had a great conversation, and that conversation revolved about the future. The future not only for us, but the future for people our age. And that led us to this another epiphany where, she said, "I'm not sure Massachusetts is the right place for me. A lot of my friends have chosen to go to other states where it's more affordable. You can buy a lot bigger house for a lot less money. There's other economic opportunities, and that is something that I might want to pursue with my life." And I thought to myself, how could a young, talented, hardworking, educated young woman like my girlfriend say these things and not want to make Massachusetts her home? Because I believe we lived in a great state. But when I looked at the statistics, a lot of young people like her and me were leaving and going to other places. And so at the end of the day, I decided that it was the right thing to do to try to make a difference and step up to that plate. It's worked out up to this point. I'm very happy for that. I don't see myself doing it my entire life, but I do see myself doing it probably for the next decade and then reevaluating. That title of dad is something that I really look forward to, and that's something that may change my personal path. With regards to the position I hold now in the state Senate, very privileged and honored to serve 14 towns in the Blackstone Valley, Norfolk Worcester district. And basically the way I look at the first 2 months is that we have a lot of work to do in the legislature. We have a new governor, we have a new Senate president, and we have a Speaker of the House that Representative Fernandes and I have had the opportunity, 10 years I believe, and myself 4, to work with. But we face as a state some significant challenges. One of those challenges is $768 million budget deficit. And the governor just yesterday came out with his plan for how we're going to address that. And that really is the biggest issue on our plate. The governor has put forward a plan that will cut about $514 million in state government spending, and he will also rely on new revenues, about $254 million, to try to balance out this situation. I had the opportunity to meet Charlie Baker in 2008. I was selected for what was called then the Rappaport Public Policy Fellowship at the Harvard Kennedy School of Government, and I got to have him as my mentor for 2 years before he ran for governor as the first time. And one of the things I can assure you in getting to know him is that he is truly a compassionate man who cares about people. And it's something that I knew that he wanted to convey, of course, across his campaign. He has made the decision to rely on several sources of revenue to help balance the budget. Capital gains revenues that would typically go into a stabilization account, which will be utilized to try to help balance off some of the budget. They're implementing a corporate tax amnesty program, which they hope will bring in somewhere between about $75 to $150 million based on numbers that occurred in 2002. And, you know, the cuts mostly are coming from Medicaid. You know, we've had some problems with our health connector. A lot of those problems have started to ameliorate and get better. But this is a significant challenge, and it's something that John and I and all the members of the legislature are going to have to roll up our sleeves and get to work on. I do support the governor's plan. I think that it's a thoughtful one, and I think over the course of the next 2 weeks, we're going to take it up and try to bring some fiscal balance back to the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. Now, I read an article today in the Boston Globe that sort of said, you know, when you change governors, government still works, but the direction of government is really what's at stake in these elections. And so in speaking with the governor, he said, you know, it's kind of like a locomotive that's going in one direction. If you want to change directions, you have to slow down a little bit, and you have to do so with respect to everybody's wishes and get input. For me, one of the biggest issues that I look forward to working on in the next 2 and hopefully more years is utilities and electricity. I think that that is one of the largest issues facing our state in the next decade. Utility prices, as some of you have maybe noticed, have skyrocketed. My wife and I, we live in an 800 square foot home and not very big. Last December, 2013, we spent about $47 on our utility bill, our electric bill. And this December, we spent $165. That has been happening across Massachusetts, especially in our area. And it didn't happen overnight. It did creep up on us. The Department of Public Utility approved a 37% increase for utilities for National Grid. But it also was sort of the consequences of policy decisions that have been made over the last decade. No significant effort to really expand our portfolio in natural gas and making that investment so we continue to rely on energy. Natural gas makes up about 60% of our portfolio. We have gone in the direction, and to a degree rightfully so, in alternative energy sources. I think that that's a great idea, but some are better than others. And for example, offshore wind is a very expensive thing. It costs about 28 cents per kilowatt hour, where natural gas costs 6 cents per kilowatt hour and is obviously more inexpensive. And so some of those decisions that have played out over the last 8 years have attributed to the rates going up. Which leads to the question, well, what do you do about it, and how do you get rates to go down? Patricia Haddad is the Speaker Pro Temp in the House, and she has basically been a leader on this issue, and some of her ideas I support very much. And actually, in speaking with the Secretary of Environmental Affairs, my friend Matt Beaton, he has this on his radar as well as probably the most significant issue, because it affects not only families, but it affects the cost of doing business in Massachusetts. And one of the things that we'd like to see happen is expansion in pipelines. Now, some of that can be controversial, and because you have that whole not in my backyard thing. So you obviously have to listen to people as it continues. But if we don't do it, we're going to continue to find ourselves economically uncompetitive. There's been some projects that are proposed out in the western part and the northern part of the state, and actually down in Bellingham, about a half a mile worth of trail through Bellingham, there's a natural gas pipeline that's being proposed. Another thing that could help out is hydroelectric, partnering with states like Vermont, New Hampshire, Connecticut, some of the New England states, Maine, and bringing hydroelectric power down from Canada into Massachusetts. Now, the availability of energy is there, but making the investments, I think, are what are most important over the next coming years. It's not something, unfortunately, that will be solved overnight, but over the course of time, I do think we can stabilize those prices and we can see some relief. That is one of my #1 priorities over the course of the next 2 years. I am studying up on the issue very, very well. The president of National Grid will be coming actually to our area, to Northbridge, for a meeting of members of the state Senate. Senate President Rosenberg will be with me that day in the town of Northbridge, and hopefully local legislators will join us to sort of get our hands around why this is happening, what we can do to mitigate the circumstances, and also improve some of the investments that need to be made in those energy sources. Another campaign topic for me was accountability. One of my proudest moments just happened 2 weeks ago. I put forward a rule amendment. Every year, we start with the rules debate. It's the first debate that governs both the House and the Senate. To kind of put it in simple terms, when you're driving down the road and you see the highway sign and it says 65 miles an hour, that's basically what we're creating, the rules of the road. And so I was able to get a budget an amendment passed to the rules that basically required all votes to be put online that are taken in committees after 48 hours. I'm a big believer in transparency. I'm a big believer that you not only deserve to know how your legislators are voting, but you should demand it because our democracy depends upon it. And those are the kinds of issues that I'd like to continue to concentrate over the next 2 years. I am a true believer, and I've been won over greatly by the new Senate president. He has a great reputation as being someone who's pragmatic and process-oriented, and I think that that's something that is needed on Beacon Hill. There was a great editorial in the Milford Daily News in the Metro West by Rick Holmes, and he said, you know, Senate President Rosenberg is helping reestablish credibility on Beacon Hill, and I think that's a wonderful thing, saying that as a Republican to the Democratic leader. In closing, you know, a big part of my campaign was about availability. I went to 17,025 homes, and actually I've bumped into several of you who I had the opportunity to meet over the course of a 10-month period. And it was an honor and a privilege, and I heard so many stories as I was able to travel door to door, neighborhood to neighborhood, town to town. For me, you know, listening has been what has made me, I feel, successful as a husband, as a son, and some of the other important titles that I've held over the course of my life, short life. It's something that I think will make me successful as a senator. I will always be here to listen to you. My website is fatman.com. Can't forget that one. As long as you add in the 2 T's, you can email me and it goes right to my phone. I'm happy to open it up for any questions that you might have. Thank you very much for having me with you today. Don't all go at once now. Frank? We got killed. But you know what? They went to the state championship 4 years later. They lost, but it was a great experience.
Actually, obviously, with all the many challenges that you'll be facing in your new role. I am curious, your background is very interesting, and it was fascinating to hear about how you decided upon the career that you're now pursuing. Frankly, it sounds almost more like a Democrat, and I'm curious as to why you chose to be a Republican in terms of
So I get the question. The question was, why did I choose to be a Republican as opposed to a Democrat? Because of some of the experiences that brought me to this point. You know, I get the question a lot as a younger individual. I'm the second youngest member of the Senate, and the question is obviously, how did you get involved? And then the ideological question is what comes next. I came up with a quip in 2009 to kind of explain it, and it got adopted by Charlie Baker in that campaign. I said, I come from a mixed marriage. My mom's a Democrat, my dad's a Republican. I said, my mom, Democrat, has great ideas. Dad, Republican, knows how to pay for them. And for me, I come from a... And by the way, my mom is great with money, so that's not a knock on any means. It's just an ideological joke. But basically, I come from a family of small business owners. My sister's a small business owner. My brother is a small business owner. My mom is a small business owner. And my dad was a businessman for 44 years for General Mills. And I saw some of the things, especially with my mom, because I helped out with her business every summer, you know, that really government shouldn't have been involved in. And that really, to me, for example, she runs a nursery school, the regulation of how often she brushes the children's teeth. To me, that's really not government's role. You know, having a certain amount of Band-Aids in the cabinet, you know, the number was 50. And on the occasion of 49, you can have a fine levied against your business of up to $2,000, shut down the business, go into an adjudicative hearing, and, you know, basically have them decide whether or not your business can be open. And to me, that's ridiculous. And I think you see every once in a while some of the ridiculous things that happen with government. That's not to say that government shouldn't play a role in people's lives, and sometimes, help people who need help. So I think that is one of the major motivating factors, is the way I was raised, and seeing the debate between my parents and sort of the experiences that I lived through. Tony.
200 million in new taxes that are in Baker's budget. So there was 200 million in, you call them revenues, I call them taxes.
Sure.
You earn taxes you take.
Yep.
But that's all right. Where's that coming from? I mean, what
So the
new
those
taxes are we looking at?
Sure, those $254 million in revenues have already been collected. They're holdover money, capital gains, that would be applied to, we have like a savings account. The state has a savings account. It's about $1.8 billion in there. Those monies would go to that account. Not all of those monies are going to go to that account. Some of those monies, probably about 150 million approximately, are going to not be put into savings, and they're going to be put into the budget and trying to reduce the budget. There's another, I think it's about 100 million in reversion money, which is year over year leftover money that wasn't spent, that is going to be applied to the deficit as well.
So no additional taxes.
No additional taxes. Governor Baker, and including myself, said Massachusetts doesn't need to go down that road of additional taxes, additional fees. We want to be more business friendly. It's not a pledge he's broke, and it's not a pledge I will either. Thank you very much for having me.
I knew when I first met him, things were gonna be great. I'm so glad I walked down the hall to talk to him at that radio station that we all love. I would like to introduce and welcome again Representative Fernandes, who I actually met just about a year ago when I was introduced as the new president. And when we reach out, John's there, Representative Fernandes is there, and we appreciate all that he does for the area. Please come forward.
Thank you very much, Siobhan, and congratulations on your first year. It was a great one. David, welcome. Shafali, congratulations on your year, and thank you to all the members of the board who step up and serve. It's hard to find time. We all try and find some time to volunteer. This is a demanding one. Congratulations to the awardees today. Well deserved. 39 years? 39 years old, yeah. Yeah. Okay. That means I'm about 25 or 30, because I think that's how long I've been a member of the chamber. And that is true. Siobhan mentioned earlier about being one of you. I am as well. My business for the last 3 years, has been a practicing attorney in the town of Milford for the most part. Spent time in the city of Boston for a while as well. And where we're located and doing litigation is a significant part of my practice in the early days. You know, we're at the corner, so I'd be in Worcester, I'd be in Dedham, I'd be in Suffolk County or Cambridge for what I did for work. So I spent a lot of time traveling the area. But growing up as an attorney in this community in business, in that profession, means that I do share and understand the same kinds of things that go on in your businesses. I own my professional law office building. I pay the same enhanced dual tax that you do, and I see what happens in terms of its pressures. I hire people, I pay the unemployment taxes, I pay the business taxes. All of those kinds of things that you go through. When the recession hits, I get hurt just like all the businesses get hurt. When the economy recovers, our profession recovers. But what I've done during the course of my profession as an attorney throughout those 30+ years is represent a lot of businesses, large and small. From international corporations to the landscaper who's 20 years old and opening his first business, looking for a corporate status or to run it as a DBA or what they should do. And what that has done is inform me. It's informed me as what's important to businesses. I mentioned the property tax, and I know on a local level it's a big issue. But when we're trying to attract large corporations into the area, it's not the first issue they talk about. It's one of the issues, but it may be 3 or 4 or 5 down the list as to what's important to them. What may be important to them is what's the workforce, what's the housing costs, what's the transportation, what are the utility costs that Ryan was talking about. Those are the things that I hear, and those are the things that have informed me in my 8 years in the legislature as to the things that I want to focus on to try and make sure we do good economic development. You know, I did say to Ryan jokingly before we came up here, I'm going to agree with everything you say. Well, I had a little bit of advantage because there was this campaign that went on for the last year. So I kind of had an idea of what he was going to say. And we've served together for 4 years in the House. So I know where his priorities are. And it doesn't really matter much if you're a Democrat or a Republican. The truth is we all want the same kind of outcomes. In an occasion, it's about the solutions and how we get to those outcomes. And what happens is we sit down and we try and work those solutions out as to what we're going to do. And I did work for 8 years with a Democratic governor. And to be quite honest with you, it's probably going to be easier to deal with a Republican governor than it is to deal with a governor of your own party, because the expectations are different. The governor of the Democratic, when we had a Democratic governor for 8 years and a Democratic legislature, the feeling was, you guys are going to do what I want to do as the governor. And the answer was, well, no, we're not. It's not going to be that easy. And the understanding with a guy like Charlie Baker is that he knows he's got a Democratic legislature. He's a pragmatic individual. I fully expect we're going to work very well together. We have a very good opportunity here. The economy has stabilized. We lived through, all of us, through this recession. And Massachusetts did do better over the last 8 years than many of the other states in this nation. Very well, and we were poised to take advantage of the recovery, and we're taking advantage of it. We're expecting significant growth. We've experienced it over the last year. We're expecting it over the next year, and that's going to help our revenue situation. We have a deficit today, and I've heard the statement made, we don't have a revenue problem, we have a spending problem. What we actually have in Massachusetts is a demand problem. We live in silos in terms of what we do with our government revenue. Healthcare, just healthcare alone, went from about 20% of our budget in the early 2000s to over 30% today, 33%. And when you put healthcare together with human resources, it kicks up over the 50-60% mark and puts an incredible demand on where we're going to put our spending. So if you are a family member with somebody who's elderly and in need of home care services or nursing home services, your priority may be in that area. If you're a business person, it may be different. If you're an educator or if you're a parent with children, it's in schools. And inevitably, when I talk to advocates, there's plenty of money if we just put it in the right silo. But when you put all of those demands together and you see it as business people, it becomes an overwhelming task to try and create a budget that will meet the demands of the most basic of what each of those silos requires for us to be compassionate and successful in delivering government services. That's the battle we'll keep fighting. Excuse me. In Massachusetts, unlike at the federal level, while you hear about this deficit and what we're trying to work on, we're constitutionally required to have a balanced budget. And when somebody talks about 9C cuts, they're talking about the portion of the Constitution that says you got to make these cuts if you feel that your budget revenues are not going to meet your anticipated spending. So that's what we come to do. And to reinforce what Ryan said, there are no new taxes in what's going on to try and meet this budget deficit. And from what I've seen, I haven't been able to evaluate entirely the plan that Governor Baker released yesterday about this most recent deficit issue. But from what I've seen, his intention in terms of cuts is to do what I recommended and urged Governor Patrick to do, was not pick winners and losers, but look at this amount of money, spreading it across the entire spectrum of government so that we don't end up with one, for instance, Governor Patrick cut reimbursement to local regional schools for transportation by almost 20%. Well, that's a couple of $100,000 to the Mendon-Upton school system. My answer was, why are you doing that? You pick winners and losers, and that means the advocates start saying, we want to be a winner. That was a mistake, in my opinion. And we should have spread, and that's what I'm seeing Governor Baker talk about today, is talking about spreading that over a distance, over all of government. So everybody takes a piece of that, as opposed to, well, there were certain areas like the Department of Children and Family that they were protecting, but there's a need to spread that over. And to the anticipated revenues, as Ryan was saying, we are talking about using rainy day funds. I mean, I want to be clear about that. We set up, because capital gains represents a significant portion of our budget, and because capital gains is so economically sensitive, when the recession hit the last time around, a big portion of what happened to us in Massachusetts was that incredible drop in capital gains, which was almost $1 billion. So we set that cap that when capital gains started to recover, when it hit approximately that $1 billion mark, anything over that would go to the rainy day fund. So part of the plan is to divert what would have been going this year into the rainy day fund to take care of this one-time problem that we have in balancing the budget this year. I support that. I agree with that. We have a rainy day fund and we have this diversion of money for situations that are much like this. Because if we make the kind of cuts that would be required, there would be real hurt done on the street to people who need government services. So I support the approach that's being taken in terms of looking to federal reimbursements and taking the cuts and making them where they make most sense. But understand, in terms of going into the next year, all the projections are very good in terms of where revenues will come in next year, and as we start to prepare for the fiscal year that's going to start in July and prepare that budget, as much as 4 to 5% in increased revenue. What we're seeing today and what we're cutting are going to be the demands that are placed upon that budget next year, along with additional demands. Because during this recession, a lot of resources that we were putting on the street lost ground, and people were looking to recover those resources. So it's a very demanding situation to try and balance a budget and deliver the services that people in Massachusetts have come to expect. That's why I say it's not a revenue problem. It's not a spending problem. It's a demand problem. The demand of each of those silos that we deal with and trying to decide how we can deliver the basic services for each of those. So it's been a challenging 8 years. When I ran 8 years ago, we weren't in the recession. When it hit, and within a short period of time, it was evident how deep it was going to be. It became clear to me that this was going to mark my entire term of office, the time that I would spend, because much like Ryan mentioned, I'm not in this for the long haul. I have my business. I continue to practice law, certainly at a much reduced rate than I had before I became a state representative. But my view of this is that it's an opportunity to give back to the community by service, which I think we all try and do one way or another. My way of doing that has been government service. But there'll come a time when I leave. But I knew it was going to be marked by this. A lot of challenges during that period of time, a lot of difficult challenges. But it's been rewarding to try and come up with the solutions that help keep Massachusetts moving forward. I want to piggyback on what Ryan did say about the utilities, because I was going to say to you the same thing. Tom Wesley, who's here, and I point him out every time, with Waters Corporation, a couple of years ago now, got me interested in advanced manufacturing in Massachusetts, and manufacturing in general. I had no idea. My family, having come through the old manufacturings of the shoe shops and the hat shops and the Draper Corporation, I was one of the believers that manufacturing was not a significant part of our economy. It is an incredibly important part of our economy. Tom got me interested in that, asked that we start a caucus. I did that. I chair a manufacturing caucus in the State House, and we have probably about 65 plus members now out of the 200, which is actually a very large, probably one of the largest, if not the largest caucus. And there's great opportunity there. And so I'm doing everything I can to support that industry to bring attention to it and to bring resources to it. And working with Tom and others who are advocates, we've had great success in the last budget and the budget before that in bringing resources into that area. But the major issue for that industry is workforce. And we are doing a lot to connect our community colleges and our vocational schools and even our regular general high schools to create the opportunity to train in the areas where we need people. We have 5.5% or so unemployment today, but we have thousands of jobs going unfilled with still a number of people underemployed or unemployed. And it's a gap in the matching of the training with the experiences of the people. We're going to close that gap. But the second thing I've heard, and I've heard it repeatedly, is the cost of electricity. And we're going to work on that. Ryan was right. Natural gas, we've become incredibly reliant upon natural gas, and we don't have it as a resource. There is a pipeline. Algonquin's putting a new one in that's going to double their capacity. There's another pipeline that's very controversial moving to the north. But the industry has to want to do that, to bring those resources to us. It's not just something we do on our own. And Massachusetts has moved in the direction of both conservation and alternatives. Alternatives aren't always cheaper, though. But if we're going to keep businesses here in Massachusetts, we have to come up with a way to drive the cost of energy down. And when the winter rate hit back in November, we had several weeks or less of notice that that was coming. We got a notice by email. Brian got it, I got it, every legislator got it, that I think it was National Grid was first at the table, and that the rates were going to go up by approximately 37%. I call over to the Attorney General and to DPU and I say, well, what is going on? When was the hearing? When was the announcement? And what I found out was they filed a 104-page memorandum and motion to change the rates. And because it was a temporary adjustment for the seasonal of November to April, and it was strictly related to the supply side cost of natural gas and the response to the RFPs they put out, there's no hearing. It goes to the DPU reviews it, the Attorney General reviews it to make sure that the charges, the manner in which they went out for the RFP and the process is correct. But there's no opportunity for public input. There's no opportunity even at that point, because it was approved within a week. There's no opportunity for the public to react, for us to even warn the residential or commercial users that saw an even bigger hit. So just in terms of that process, I'm filing legislation to try and change that and require greater span of time for the process to play out such that there can be a hearing, notice, and opportunity to evaluate how that's going to hit. That's one small part of this. But to what Ryan was saying, the bigger part is the substantive part. How do we bring the gas in? How do we look to the alternatives that are affordable and will actually help us, not just increase the supply, but do it at an affordable rate? Otherwise, companies that, and I won't name names, companies that rely very heavily on electricity and provide thousands of jobs to our district right here, have to think long and hard about how long they can keep making other cuts to keep that electrical cost down in terms of their overall cost for it. So I'll stop. I ceded time to the senator. He's already learned that senators get more time than representatives. And if there are any other questions that you guys have for either Ryan or myself or both of us, be happy to take a minute and try and answer those. But I know people have to get back to work as well. But thank you very much for being here. I look forward to continuing to work with the leadership of the chamber and every member. And I am here. My office is here in Milford. There are 3 different email addresses you can get me at. I think like 8 or 9 different telephone numbers. Just if there's anything I can do for you, please reach out. We need to hear from you. That's one of the most important pieces, because I talk to business people that come to my office or that I meet in networking, and there are complaints, and there's a frustration that nobody will listen. We listen. It makes a difference to hear from you. So please, there is no opinion that is lacking in value. So if you have an opinion, please reach out to us. But again, if there are any questions, I'd be happy to try and answer them. No. The opportunity, certain of the cuts that need to be made to balance a budget when we get into this kind of situation, and it happened a few times during the recession, certain of the cuts can be made by the governor without any cooperation or participation by the legislature. Others can't. Local aid is one of the ones he cannot cut on his own. Governor Patrick made a recommendation to us before he left that we make some cuts in local aid, which the legislature refused to take up, and Governor Baker has said he won't do it. Now, I caveat that with the reality of what I mentioned just briefly as the one thing, which was the regional transportation. Governor Patrick made that cut believing he had the right to do it on his own. We've actually asked, I don't know, Ryan, if you were part of it, but a group of legislators, bipartisan group of, Ryan did sign on as well, we sent a letter to the Attorney General. We have a right as legislators to ask the Attorney General for an opinion. It's not necessarily binding on the governor at that point, but we've asked the Attorney General to rule as to whether the Governor Patrick cuts in the regional transportation were legal, because we actually passed legislation that said regional cuts, not transportation in particular, couldn't be made, or additional cuts in education couldn't be made unless we cut Chapter 70 money, which is the basic education money. So that's one that's still hanging fire. And again, for school systems like Mendon Upton, Blackstone Valley, Regional, Tri-County, those cuts are significant because they're a couple $100,000.
Thank you. And just one last question. You mentioned, both you and the Senator have mentioned energy as being a top priority. I basically live down the street in Holliston, and we now have a couple of solar farms. And obviously that's a low-impact industry, but can contribute significantly to the reduction of energy costs.
And does.
Are you working towards encouraging more of that? And can we see some more things coming from Beacon Hill on that regard?
Absolutely, it's a high priority. There was legislation to address the whole net metering issue that got to the 11th hour and 58th minute of the session last year, and thought we had a deal, and it collapsed. But I'm fully expecting that that is, not am I expecting, solar is a significant part of the overall energy package and solution, and I'm expecting that that will get support this year, and we'll finalize that deal we couldn't get done before the end of this session. You're welcome. Anybody else? Frank? Frank, you always have a question. Thank you.
So to close out this great event, I want to thank each and every one of you here. And I challenge you to go out and spread the good word about the Chamber, because I hope to be here next year saying, you guys helped us and we helped you. I'd like to thank my board of directors. I'd like to thank Shefali for a great year. And Dave Price, I look forward to working with you and getting the next PowerPoint together for our next meeting. How's that, Dave? And really, it happens within this room, but it doesn't happen alone. It happens as a team. We're all team, and you can be our ambassadors. If you know anybody that's got a business, bring them along, have them call me. I will reach out. I've been reaching out more and more now that I've got my first year done and over and I've survived, and I can't wait to get started with your help for 2015. Thank you so much and have a great afternoon.